Good evening, dear friends. It's a great joy to be here once again with you all, with our dear Charles, our dear Silvia, dear Nadja, and later on Stevan, that he is in another meeting. It's a time for us now to do our greetings for you all. Welcome everyone to this wonderful room. And Charles, your greetings, Silvia and Nadja.
Bonjour, très heureux d'être à nouveau parmi vous ce soir. Désolé pour la semaine dernière, c'était le lendemain d'une opération, donc c'était pas vraiment le bonjour. Mais bon, ça va déjà beaucoup mieux. Donc je suis très heureux d'être à nouveau parmi vous ce soir pour vous parler de Kardec et de la paix. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Very happy to be here again with you. Sorry for last week. It was the next day of surgery, so it was not the best, easiest day. But you see, 1 week after, it's much better. So I'm here, very happy to be here again with you to talk a little bit about Allan Kardec and also about the peace in the world.
Thank you, Charles. Silvinha?
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, wherever you are. So it's a pleasure to be here with you. And once again, and especially the theme today, talking about peace and about Jesus. Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite. É um prazer estar com vocês novamente e para falar de paz e de Jesus. Thank you.
Nadja?
Okay.
Labas rytas, labas vakaras, laba diena, nesvarbu, kur jūs esate, labai malonu, kad čia būti su jumis. Šiandien mūsų tema yra Jėzus kaip taikos nešėjas. Kalbėsime irgi apie Kardec, Allaną Kardec, apie Jėzus stebuklus, apie maldos galią ir taiką. Tikiuosi, kad jums bus labai malonu, labai įdomu.
Thank you, Nadja. So, our live today is very important. Our theme, our subject about Jesus and peace, the message of peace. So I will show a short video for you, for us all.
Jesus' role was not simply that of a moralistic lawgiver with no other authority than his own word. He came to fulfill the prophecies that had announced his coming. His authority derived from the exceptional nature of his spirit and his divine mission. He came to teach humans that true life is to be found not on the earth, but in the kingdom of heaven, to teach them the way that leads there, the means of reconciling themselves to God, and to forewarn them regarding the progress of future things for the fulfillment of human destiny. Jesus did not come to destroy the law. He came to fulfill it, that is, to develop it, to give it its true meaning and to adapt it to the degree of humankind's advancement. That is why that in this law may be found the principle of duty to God and to one's neighbor.
Thank you, our dear friends, Eduardo from I Spirit Academy. So these videos are very important for us, short videos that make a difference in our lives here, in our lives every day. Jesus is our model, and our Spiritist teachings brought everything from Jesus in the gospel according to Spiritism, explained by the spirits, guides, and Kardec. So, as tomorrow is a very important day, can see here, Kardec, March 31st, 1869. I'm reading a short message written by Camille Flammarion, and I will pass to Charles to comment for us. At our feet, Your envelope is sleeps. Your brain is extinguished. Your eyes are closed so that they cannot be opened. Your word will no longer be heard. But it is not in this flesh that we put our glory and our hope. The body falls, the soul remains and returns to space. Immortality is the light of life, as this effulgent sun in the light of nature. See you soon, my dear Allan Kardec. See you later. Signed by Camille Flammarion. So, Charles, tell us something about this wonderful person that brought to us the third consular, Allan Kardec.
Yes, thank you, Elsa. It will be tough in 10 minutes, but let's try to do it. Okay, so Jesus, as the video showed it very clearly, and as we can read it from the Gospel, particularly Matthew's chapter 5, for instance, Jesus came with a very peaceful message. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And then the verse number 9 is, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. So what does it mean, inherit the earth? And what does it mean to be called children of God? And this is exactly Kardec's mission. He really brought, starting by the observation of phenomenon like a turning table or similar, he was looking for the cause of this phenomenon and discovered rationally by the world of the spiritual world, in the survival of the spirit, the proof of identity, the communicability between the spirits and the humans through what we call mediums, and so on. So he really made a huge disruption in terms of not of the content of the moral itself, but in bringing all these notions that we know since 2000 years and 1850 years at that time from Jesus, from the Gospels. And he really, the disruption he brought was to go from the blind faith to the reasoned faith. The Spiritists are believing in Jesus' messages, not because they are written, but because they are understood. So we understand first the logic behind it. We understand first by looking to the phenomenon of mediumship phenomenon, as I just told, that really is the best cause that we can find for all these phenomena are the survival of the soul, given the spiritual world. So bringing back all these logics toward these messages we got from Jesus about the moral laws. And that is really the huge disruptions that Kardec brought. The second disruption he brought is during centuries or even millenniums, we were told it is written like this in the book, God has said this and said that, so you shall believe. If you don't believe, you can go to hell and whatsoever. Typically the heteronomous approach, isn't it? And today also, we through this logical approach, it's completely changing the way we go from the heteronomy, where we are told what we have to believe and to do and not to do, to autonomy. Or it means we do it autonomously as per our free will, because we understood that is the best way, not only for us, but also for the whole humanity. And the notion of peace is exactly entering in this type of approach. If we think about through the Spiritist logic, the Spiritist philosophy, body of knowledge, we really see that the only way, not the best way, the only way for humanity to progress, sure, is towards peace. So unfortunately, not all the terrestrians have understood this. And the proof is we have a conflict in Europe right now. And there are, it is one of the 80 conflicts which are currently existing in the world. So this is only for wars, because Jesus was also very clear. Again, in this Sermon of the Mount, he told peace is not only the opposite of the wars, is also the people which are meek, which do not, how to say it, say bad words or are not angry against the brother or the neighbor and so on. So the peace starts in very soft things which are inside ourselves. Peace starts in ourselves. And this is how, with a peaceful attitude, it will be contagious. It will contaminate, between brackets, the others positively. And this will do such that the humanity will progress and walk towards the peace, which is for sure, as we understand the evolution, the law of evolution of our Earth, it is the way we are going to, and hopefully it will not take so long anymore. Maybe some decades for the more optimistic ones, but maybe 1 or 2 centuries for the more realistic ones, I would say. But we know for sure that this is a way. So really, violence, discrimination, competition, war, all these things today are already, how to say, out of time. And for sure, they will disappear very soon. And it will not be very glorious for the people who have promoted such attitudes which are against the harmony with the natural laws. So Kardec's huge contribution, tomorrow is 153 years of his return to the spiritual home. He really brought this rational and logical approach, which enables us to understand much better, much clearer the teaching of Jesus. So he did not reform or change the teaching of Jesus. At the opposite, he just confirmed them, adding them the strength of the logic, of the reason, and of the common sense, which makes them much, much stronger. And I must admit that I have been educated Catholic, so I was hearing the priest and the people telling all these things, and I had some questions, and they could not answer to all the questions. No, it's like this, you have to believe it, and so on. So, when you get a teenager and so on, you just disconnect a little bit because it doesn't suit you anymore, or you do not get the answers you would like to have, and so on. And then a couple of, let's say, 10 years later, I was in contact with Spiritism. And there it was like a kind of a huge comeback, resuscitation somehow. And I must admit that today I'm much, much more Christian than I was when I was Catholic. And today I see even much, much wider, because Jesus, of course, is okay. Gospel, of course, is okay. Christian, of course, is okay. But it's only 1/3 of the humanity. And Kardec was really very open to this from the beginning, because you have Muslims, you have Hindus, you have so many religions around the world. And when you go to the teaching, to this moral law at the root of each of them, you see that they are all extremely consistent one with the other. They take basically the same things, maybe with slightly different words, or slightly adapted to a different culture or a different time or whatever. But when you really go to the root and look for the deep sense of all these meanings, you see that it's not just Christian. It's all the religions in the world, the big majority of them, which are totally in line with this. And this is what Kardec also brought in the Spirit's book, Book 3rd. It's the moral laws. And the moral laws, what are they? It's simply part of the natural laws, showing what is good and what is not good. And the referential for this is to be in harmony, in line with the natural laws, or the opposite, to be in disharmony with the natural laws. And this is really, how to say, thanks a lot, Kardec, for having brought that, this shift from the blind phase to the reasoned phase, which enables us as a spiritist to get the motivation and the strength to work every day, to try to become every day a little bit better person as the day before, to make all the efforts we can to extinguish to our the bad things or the bad thinkings or bad habits we still have, and replace them by the good habits, because we know rationally the way, we know where we come from, we know where we are, we know where we go to. All these questions have been very clearly answered. We know that we are progressing day by day, life after life, towards God. And with the certainty of this gives you tremendous resources to overcome these difficulties, to overcome these bad vibrations or bad mood that are normal in this period of crisis, of war, of pandemic, of economical crisis, of climate crisis, and whatever, all these things which are coming. I can say we are ready. We are ready to face them calmly, without anger, without fear, because all this is also means that we lose our control, we lose our strength, because we have this reasoned phase inside of us, which helps us to, as we tell in France, or the Gauls said 2,000 years ago, they were afraid that the sky was collapsing on their head. So the sky can't collapse on our head. We will stay very quiet and full of hope. So thank you so much, Kardec, for having brought this all to us. Thank you, Elsa, also for having recorded this speech of Camille Flammarion at the funeral of Kardec, where he was also absolutely brilliant, showing his belief in the spiritual paradigm, and hopefully more and more scientists and humans nowadays will shift from this materialist paradigm to the spiritualist paradigm, because this is really the key that will transform the humanity, and that will do such that we will really enter strongly and surely in the world of regeneration that we are all awaiting. Thanks a lot for your time, for your patience, and for your comments and appreciation. Thank you.
I think, Charles, if you have time before the end, you could say something about the phrase, Kardec is an incarnated good sense, bom senso encarnado. It's something very important that people knows why they have this subtitle, can say. Okay, but before we carry on asking something to Silvia, would you like to say thank you so much for participating and giving support to us from Taimi Martinez, Maria Eugenia Rego from Munich, Tami from London, Nancy Valenti from Italy, Elsa Lindquist from Sweden, Rodrigo from Spain, and Sandra dos Santos Jimenez from London as well. So there are more people here. I will say later on, okay? Thank you for being with us and pray for me. But now we carry on. Charles, you explained very well and very nice indeed, okay? And now I'd like to ask Silvia something very important. What was Jesus' mission on earth?
Wow.
Thank you.
That is a question and a half, isn't it? I think I will start really with Jesus, as the Messiah, He had been predicted from everlasting time, as the prophet said. And in many of the prophets, they've predicted the coming of Jesus. And is in Micah, and it says, I will read some of the passage very briefly because I think the words are much better. In the prophet Micah, he says, oh dear, I've marked everything and now I can't find them. Yes, very briefly, because it will answer the theme that we had. And he says, he talks about Bethlehem. Bethlehem Ephrathah, thou be the little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall come forth unto me, that is to be the ruler of Israel, whose going forth have been from old, from everlasting. And then he says, and he shall, let me get the 5. And here he says, and this man shall be the peace. That's from the prophet Micah, when he predicted the coming of Jesus being born in Bethlehem. He says, and this man shall be peace. And then we find him also in Jeremiah, when he is called the Lord of righteousness. But in Isaiah, more than anything, it's a very important part of the Bible, especially in relation to the coming of the Messiah. He says, and I think this is very well known. I think everybody knows this passage because if you know the music, the Messiah from Handel, there's the text. And he says here, for unto us, no, in the beginning he says, the people that worked in darkness have seen a great light, and that they dwell in the land of shadow of death. Upon death hath the light shined. And then he said, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end upon the throne of David, and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice, from henceforth and forever. That's what he says. And then also he says that he came to bear our iniquities. In Isaiah 40, he says that Jesus came to bear our iniquities. And it's interesting because what he says here, he'll be called a Counselor, the Mighty God, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. So that is the mission of Jesus on earth, to bring peace. And it's important, I think, for us to realize, because in many times we hear that we need to learn to follow the teachings of Jesus so we can go to heaven. And that's not the reality. We need to learn the teachings of Jesus. And I think, like Charles pointed out, the teachings of Jesus is in every single religion. It's because basically, if you get everything, he himself put in a phrase, love God with all your heart, with all your mind, and your neighbors yourself. And to others as you would they do to you. And I think this is basic to every single religion on earth, is the same principle. And I think this is important because also in Matthew, they said that he is to bring peace and justice, because with Jesus came grace and peace. Those, you see that in many of the prophets that predicted him, they already talked that he was peace. So all his teachings resolve that we don't do or try to follow it as much as, as we can, not to go to heaven, but so that we can build heaven on earth. And that, I think, is the very important thing. Is, are we going to have that? That's not the point. The point is to love one another, to respect one another, to do to others as we would like to be treated and received. And, I think Charles said something as well about forgiveness and understanding and being kind and charitable and seeing other person's point of view, because that's the purpose of Jesus' teachings, is so that we can build heaven on earth. Like he said in the Lord's Prayer, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So I think this is, we find it, sometimes we say, oh, it's so difficult, it is difficult because we have a mountain of pride and selfishness within us. And that's where the things that we have to battle. Because if we can, it's very difficult sometimes to see the other person's point of view, because we have a way of thinking, they have their way of thinking, and we all seem to be right. And I think, especially at the time that we are living now, that I never heard before. I'm an old woman, and I can't remember hearing as my truth. And now we seem to have my truth. Everybody has their truth. And my truth does not respect yours, because this is mine. And I think that's one of the things that if we really go to what Jesus taught us, he taught us humility. He was the greatest, the most enlightened being that ever walked this earth. Yet he chose, and I think one of the problems that the people of his time could not accept him as the Messiah, because they, as we, still think that the Lord of, the emissary of God would be coming in, be born a king and do all sorts of things. And he chose to be born amongst the animals with a little cradle. And in a very, very simple, his first visitors were the most poorest people, was the shepherds. And the Prince of Peace and Light was born amongst the most poor and the most neglected. And I think that's what the lessons he taught us, to look at those who are in need. And it's interesting as well, because it's not so only a question of money, because there are a lot of people who are quite poor with a lot of money. I remember a story that Chico once said, that he received this lady, a very rich woman, who came to visit him. And everybody was saying, oh, you see, he receives her because she's really rich. That's why he receives her. And we out here waiting. And then he, of course, he would know. And then he said, yes, I'm receiving her before anybody else, because the only thing she has is money. And I can't imagine any more poor than someone who only has money. And I think that's one of the things that we need to try to understand as well. Money doesn't make anyone better than us. They go through the same problems, the same difficulties. And sometimes being poor is easier because we face the difficulties and we don't have a lot of time to do other things, but money itself can be a source of help to others, as poverty as well, because being poor and complaining all the time does not help either. And I think that's the thing, seeing the person for who they are, what good in them. And I always love this quote from Abraham Lincoln that said, if you look for the good in people, you will find it. And that's the thing, because normally we just see what we actually project on other people. What we don't like in ourselves is what we throw out. You see, and if we could just change this pattern and start seeing what they have good, we will find good in everyone. And that was the lessons of Jesus. He was the Prince of Peace because he came to woke us up to the possibility. And I think the thing he said to the apostles, love one another as I have loved you. And I always find very emotional this phrase, because that's what he said. I've loved you so much that it would be so good if you love others as the same way that I loved you. So if we are able to just try, of course, we're not going to become overnight enlightened, but we have everything. And we have all these things, you know, in the Hindu tradition, in the Buddhist tradition, in the Muslim tradition. Nothing really changes very much. I mean, there is one of the surahs in the Quran that he says that mankind, when they're happy, they completely forget God. But as soon as they have a problem, they sort of melt themselves in prayers. And I mean, this is a reality, I think, in everywhere. You know, like everybody now talk, pray, 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 but we should pray all the time. We should create peace around us, because I think Charles mentioned something about this as well, that we have to build peace in ourselves. And that's where peace starts, because the war in Ukraine, the war in Yemen, and all the other wars that there is a reflection of how we behave ourselves, millions of us. So if we start creating a little peace within ourselves, and really trying to make the best we can where we are, it will spread out. It will be a beautiful world, because this earth is such a wonderful thing, and life is God inside of us. Life is God within us. And I think, like Joanna de Angelis says that, you know, said that life is God within us, is God in us. And if we can grasp this, then we will be able to forgive, to let go of things, you know, and we'd be happier, other people would be happier, and we would be really and truly, because being a Christian is very, you know, Jesus didn't ask anything. He just said, love God and love your neighbor as yourself, you know, and he's even telling us to love ourselves first. Even if you think in terms of selfishness, you know, he said, love yourself and then you love others. So I think that's what his teachings, that was his mission here, to wake us up to love, to forgiveness, to understanding, and for peace for ourselves and for others. Because when we make other people happy, we get happy. And I think that what all his teachings comes to, you know, I think Charles mentioned also the Sermon on the Mount, which is the most wonderful thing. Bless the merciful, because they will receive mercy. Bless the meek, because they will inherit the earth. So peace in our hearts, and if we create peace around us, we'll spread peace in the world. That's how I understand, you know, the question anyway. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Silvia. Very wonderful points. Some people here liked what you said, so they wrote something. That's important. And in our Spirit book, we have the question 6 to 5, the model and guide for our planet, Jesus. So Jesus summarized everything. As he is the governor, he planned our planet, he organized our planet with the other Christs of the world, of the universe, and you have this beautiful planet Earth. And what we are doing this planet to achieve what he was his object and subject, peace and love and evolve. So perhaps later on we can talk about that, because now I will ask our dear Nadja, our scientist, spiritist scientist, Dr. Nadja. Nadja, dear, did Jesus perform miracles, that is, let's say, wonders outside the laws of nature? Please.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for your question. Thank you, Charles and Silvia, for the wonderful presentation. And just before I start with the question, I agree with Nancy when she said that it was her life. She couldn't, I will read again. Where is it? That she couldn't imagine. I just can't figure out my life without spiritism. I think for me it was the same. It was like a big divisor between before Spiritism and after Spiritism. And I thanked Allan Kardec for putting all the information together and in such a way that it's easy to understand. And when you start reading it, it's just like, wow. And the more you read, you can participate in courses, and every time it's just wonderful and mind blowing. Such clear information, and it just, yeah, I just love it. Yeah. But going to the questions, did Jesus perform miracles, wonders outside the law of nature? As spiritists, we know that the miracles are a kind of, or a type of magnetic force that we are still unable to fully understand, but it's a kind of force that the High Spirit captures and help us, captures from our thoughts and help us to progress. I will give some examples of the miracles, of Jesus' miracles, because then I will go to summarize then my talk. So there was in Bethesda, there was a pool in the Temple of Jerusalem, whose waters were had properties capable of miraculous cure. The people there believed that from time to time an angel would come and shake the waters, and then the first person who threw himself into the waters, they would be healed. There were thousands of people there all waiting for a miracle. There was a man that was physically disabled for 38 years, and he said to Jesus, when Jesus came to that place, that he was many years there waiting for his chance to jump into the pool to get cured. But because as soon as the angels shake the water, someone without any disability would jump in first, and then he would miss this opportunity. So Jesus said to him, okay, so stand up, grab your things, and walk away. And so he did. So this was a little bit of the magnetism of Jesus, giving him this power to go and do and stand up and walk, but also his faith in believing that, yeah, okay, Jesus is saying that to me, so I can do it as well. I will stand up and I will go. So he did. Another event was the woman who was bleeding and for many years as well, and she touched Jesus' clothes, and because she thought that teaching him, or just at least his clothes, she would be cured. And then Jesus feels that someone teaches him, and then he asked who was it, and the woman, I'm just summarizing the very, very simple way. Then the woman came a little bit ashamed, saying that it was her, telling her story. And then Jesus just said to her, my daughter, your faith cured you. So then she understood. There are many examples, of course, in the Bible, and one situation in Matthew chapter 17, when the disciples asked Jesus why they couldn't cast the evil spirits out of a boy who was possessed by evil spirits. Then Jesus says, because your faith is small. So I assure you that if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to the mountain, move over there, and the mountain would move. So his miracles, in my opinion, teach us about faith. And if we have faith, if we believe, then we will work hard, and heaven will help us. So the high spirits will help us, will connect to us, and will help us to overcome our difficulties, and it will bring us peace of mind, and health, because we talk in many other lives that we were talking here every Wednesday. The power of our thoughts. And so our thoughts are so powerful that it can change to health, and it can change to any medical condition. And we see these miracles every day, basically. So we believe, we move forward, we make things happen, and then we achieve whatever we want, if it's the good for ourselves, for our progress. And I will talk again about a book that I like a lot, is called Cured, by Dr. Jeffrey Rodrigo. And he mentioned that those people who have been cured by an unexplained way, they changed their lifestyle habits, they changed their nutrition, they did exercise, they became more spiritual, they believed that the disease they had, the problem they had, would not take them down. So they changed and they got cured. So when you change your mental vibration to a more positive one, you change your cells, as Dr. André Luis already told us. Cells by cells, we can change it. And we're talking about the conflicts that are not so far from us. And one day, just before the conflict started, I was talking to a person, and I was saying that not to worry too much, because we have to have faith that everything's going to be okay. That's not going to be war. It's not going to be anything bad, because it's a moment of expectation. It's a moment of uncertainty. So we have to pray. Only pray, because there's nothing we can do at the moment here in Lithuania or in England, and even there in Ukraine. So we could only pray. And then he said, "No, pray won't help." And I was so convinced. And I think it was the first time that I heard someone say so those words, like of lack of faith, so clearly. And I was like, well, I replied to him, if if you are stressed and thinking too much about it, it's not going to help either. So it's going to make you nervous. It's going to make you sleepless and even more stressed, and even you're going to get sick. So at least praying will calm you down, will calm people around you as well. Because if you're stressed, everybody around you is stressed as well. So if you calm yourself down, praying, so you can calm others as well. And I believe that our prayers get to God. So, and we can have 50% of, chance of getting to God or not. But I believe that 100% will get to God. So I will pray because I believe. And Jesus, in moments of conflicts and uncertainties, he would go to the mountains and, do his meditation, pray, and bring this inner peace to himself. So then he could go back to the people and then show to them by example and by the teachings that peace is much better than stressing and getting anger. And he showed this also praying. So prayer is our resource for mental, energetic, and emotional self-defense. It's our connection with higher spirits, and they are the source of light and love in the universe. So our thoughts get connected with mental currents of love and peace, and it gets multiplied, it spreads, and it reaches others. So grief, anger, envy, fear, misery, agony, rage, they are all like an inner energetic stain that connects with the deleterious mental creatures and creations that take us away from the much desired peace of conscience. So, and make this connection that we have with the Father more tenuous, weakened, shaky, fragile, and forgiveness, on the other hand, and bring us peace. So, because it's a decision for peace. So, when we decide to forgive, we are showing, we are having a posture of humility and recognition of our intimate needs, fragilities, challenges, and as well as susceptibilities. No? First, it benefits ourselves because it connects to the source and sublime mental creations, and they lift us up. They bring us the center on the path of life. And in the book Liberation, the High Spirit says to André Luiz, "In the peace you sow, you will find the harvest you desire." So peace is built with effort. According to Divaldo Franco, he says peace is built with effort, and to be protected, it demands vigilance in goodness and keeping with one's high ideals. And Jesus never had to he never had a weapon to impose by force peace. He showed us by example. That's why, in my opinion, we say that he is the way, the truth. So he is love, and he showed it that by love, with love, and we can achieve inner peace first, and then we can have strength to provide this peace to all others. I think I have a few minutes. I want to read a message that we received in the group that we have on Saturdays. A message from High Spirits that by psychography. So they say, energetic forces of unloving thought culminated in this moment, so painful to humanity. You see pain, doubt, separation, but don't believe in the power of evil. If everything evolves and walks towards God, do not disturb your soul, increasing the forces that disturb the earth's psychosphere. Watch your hearts. How much anger is still in there? Why do you grieve? Why are you so scared? This is the moment for the witness of your faith. Look around for service to others. How can we help? Disconnect from feelings of hate, judgment. Connect in love. Loving feelings are very important right now. Practice individual tolerance so that tolerance arises between nations. Practice nonviolence so that peace can triumph. Everything is in the hands of each of us. Thank you.
Wonderful message. Yes, we should think more in helping others. When we are helping others, we are, inverted commas, curing our sufferings, because you put yourself at service. You are living Jesus, because he said, we can do what he had done and much more. But we have to be confident that we have power of thoughts, power in our hands to touch, to give healing by our thoughts, to go another part of the ocean and send good energy. We can do a lot of things. We don't need to me, cry around, only asking. We can pray and we can receive under inspiration what we need to do. Or do the right thing, because sometimes we have two things to choose one, and we can pray and receive. It's really wonderful. So I wrote something that before that I say here that we use peace, because we are talking peace, as a friendship that brings harmony, that is the opposite of hostility and violence. Or we can use in a community, in a social life, with a sense of meaning, a lack of conflict, such as war, or war inside the families, war inside us, war outside, and freedom from violence amongst human beings. Actually, being in peace is a psychological way to live a better moment. Otherwise, we are living conflict day and night. We don't need a war there. We are living conflict here. But also, talking about Jesus, the teachings of Jesus are eternal. As Silvia said, and Charles pointed, in all religions are teaching what Jesus preached. Love one another, be charitable, do your best, be good, etc. So the teachings of Jesus are eternal because they are the truth. They constitute not only a safe conduct to celestial life, but also a pledge of peace, tranquility, and the stability of earthly things. So now, as we have 10 minutes, I will use only 2 minutes at the end to show our announcements. Would you like if Charles can explain in a few words about the good sense incarnated, Allan Kardec? Would you?
Yes, I mean, thank you, Elsa, for the question. When Kardec was facing to this phenomenon of turning tables, let's say abnormal or paranormal phenomenon, we can, if we put us in his feet, what happens to most of the people? Most of the people, they admire and this and that, and have a kind of a trend to think it is fantastic or something magic or whatever. Kardec, no. He stayed really with his feet on the earth. He never got, as I tell, sometimes satellised, and he always was without excessive enthusiasm and also without excessive incredulity, but with the right measure of the scientist observing the phenomenon and trying to analyze and to determine what are the possible causes. He really stayed with this pragmatic approach. And this is also the why Flammarion told it's the good incarnated good sense, because he was, when you read his books and the Spiritist magazine and whatever, you can easily see the reasoning he's applying for a lot of things. I will give just an example right now from the Spirit's book, conclusion, item number 3. What did he write there? He wrote, by demonstrating the existence and immortality of the soul, Spiritism revives faith in the future, uplifts discouraged hearts, and enables us to bear the tribulation of life with resignation. You see, a very simple sentence, but with a profound, a very deep logic behind. And this is really the characteristic of Allan Kardec, is to see all these things which were so speculative and whatever before, but in such a clear and rational way. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's as you just told, Elsa. If we understand by demonstrating the existing of the soul and immortality of the soul, what is the immediate conclusion of it? The soul is immortal, but our physical body is mortal, we know. One day we will die, and we put it in a box, and the box will be buried on the earth, and it will be recycled by the nature. And that day where we will go, we will also leave here our cars, our houses, bank account, and whatever. Even the diploma, titles, all this will stay here. Okay. The only thing we take with us is our soul, the consciousness, our conscience, whether it's a good conscience or bad conscience. We also take with us what we have learned in terms of intellectual knowledge, artistical knowledge, and also about the morality, the qualities we have gained. This is what we will take with us. So if we go to this reasoning of this common sense, incarnated common sense, as you told, why should we be violent in order to get some advantage here on earth, material advantage, that we will anyhow lose at the end of our life, and then have a bad conscience because we have done something wrong? So we are jeopardizing what is immortal for favorizing what is ephemeros, what is only during a certain time, and then we will lose it anyhow. Where is the logic behind such an attitude? So when you see this clearly, I mean, the best way again is peace. is we come back to these moral teachings of, as you told, Jesus and the ground of most of the other religions. Basically, who was Jesus, elevated spirit incarnating on earth? Who was Buddha? The same, elevated spirit incarnating on earth. And Confucius and Mahomet and whoever. So all these elevated spirits are part of the same spiritual team. So they come and tell the same things. They are more elevated than what we are. So the teachings they are bringing, again, it's changing in language, in the interpretations. The Gospels have not been written by Jesus himself, but by some followers as per their understanding, and then translated and so on. So those are the differences which are bringing. But when you go to the root, what did he really want to say at a given point in time? You will find a huge consistency, as Léon Denis demonstrated, in particular in the introduction, the first sections of the Afterlife book. You find a huge, admirable consistency across all this teaching. And it's normal because it's basically coming from the same source. I'm not here speculating that it's the same individuality. To speculate about the individuality of elevated spirits is a childish attitude. Who am I to judge whether Jesus or Mahomet or Buddha or Confucius, they are so elevated compared to me that they are elevated spirits, that's it. And they speak with one only voice. And this is also the big contributions that Kardec brought with this incarnated good sense.
Thank you, Charles. So the two words, reasonable faith, is very important. We don't need to discuss all things that is far from us, but a reasonable faith we can understand why Spiritism brings to us reasonable faith. Right? So, my dear friends, we are 3 minutes before the end of our meeting. I leave you some time for quickly final words from Silvia and Nadja, if you want to.
Well, just to say goodbye. Today was a good theme. The theme of today was very good, a question of peace. And I think there are quite a few things that we can meditate on, and maybe put some effort, and also be more conscious of our behavior in relation to the people who live with us, to our friends, to our families, to our work colleagues, and to make an effort to have peace amongst us, and to continue our prayers for those who have not yet realized, as Charles was saying, that everything is very ephemeral and will go very, very quick before we even realize, and everything will be left behind. There is no power on earth that will last, but our life is eternal. So we need to create peace for that life.
Thank you, Silvia. Wonderful. Nadja, would you like to? It's okay. I think Nadja is freezing or not? Yeah. Okay, no problem. So, thank you all for watching. And before we finish, wait just 1 minute. I will show our next week, our guest that comes from Brazil, through here, that will be our dear Edi Paixão. He knows a lot about suicide prevention, so in value of life. So be with us next week, my dear all. And starting after tomorrow, 1st of April, the first World Spiritism Month. There are a huge task behind the scenes, behind the stage. It's a wonderful 1 month job. We are deeply involved, me and Charles, Rubens, Andrea Maroso, and also Cesar Perry de Carvalho. And it will be a huge month, a huge event through FEAL that will broadcast 2 videos per day. So you will see, and 18 to be the entire day, okay? Be with us. And also remember that we have in our solar Tuesday, fortnight, and also every Saturday we have the Medium's book. We offer these studies for you all that want to be. You are lonely in parts of the world that there are no spirit center or studies. You can be with us, okay? And now, thank you all. Thank you, Steven, that is still working in another place. And be with us next week. And let your people know about this wonderful spiritual light topic. Tomorrow, remember, a prayer for Kardec. And thank you, Kardec, for being a good sense incarnated and bring to us these wonderful teachings. Thank you all.
Thank you all the best. Merci beaucoup. À bientôt.
Adianto.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Thank
Internet
you.
is not working. Bye-bye.
Bye. God bless. Bye.